For those who competed decades ago, speeding down highways, through towns, country roads. For those who sat watching on the sides of the street, who found solace in chaos and thunderous speed. Even for those who grew up without the sights and the sounds, and lived without race cars shaking the ground. Who don't understand why racing appeals to our fascination, wonder, and the way that we feel. A purpose-built place to camp and spend time with friends, watching racing together until darkness descends. Though no longer do the streets rumble and roar, there's a place just for this, a park to explore.
A road racing circuit before the assault. The 4 twisting, beautiful miles at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. For 6 brutal, ear-shattering hours, its serenity will be violated by the raw power of screaming racing machines. It's the famed end-of-season endurance classic, the Road America 500. The specially constructed race circuit at Elkhart Lake at normal speed is a scenic 4-mile drive through fall-tinted Wisconsin countryside.
Hidden by forests near Elkhart Lake, not a path nor a trail, but a road meant to race. In a town too quiet, the refuge we seek, Road America, the racetrack, the National Park of Speed.
It's always a great point of the season when we head to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and to Road America, a fantastic racing facility in Midwest of the United States, and puts on some fantastic racing regardless of the type of car that comes here. We're here tonight with GT3 machinery for the Washington Region DC SCCA for the next round of their GT3 championship, and I'm here, Greg Ginsberg, and we're in for, I think, a great show here, Greg.
Definitely, Finney, and thanks for having me once again. Really appreciate it. And after the DC region of the SCCA had their race at Silverstone, the great Formula One circuit in the United Kingdom, they are now heading back to the United States to the National Park of Speed, Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, over 4 miles, 17 turns of speed and grit and I don't want to say terror, we'll just say speed, which really fits these GT3 cars very, very well. Lots of straightaways, lots of flat turns, and it's going to be a great battle here for all of our DC Region League drivers. Yeah, and we're taking a look here at the track map of Road America. Again, a fantastic racing facility, a lot of straights, and that's again going to be the big talking point for tonight, where these guys are going to get a huge amount of draft and a huge amount, big opportunity to make up spots at the end of these straightaways. Where you head down the start-finish line through turn 1, again a big spot for passing, probably the biggest of all the straightaways here. Then through turns 2 and 3, right down another straightaway in the middle of the track through turn 4, then into another heavy braking zone down into turn 5. Yes, and once you head through turn 5, 90-degree turn, fairly slow turn, and another good passing area there. You're going to head up a hill, very, very steep hill underneath the Corvette Bridge until you go through turn 6, and through turn 6, a very short run to the right-hander to what they call the Hurry Downs, which is going to bring you downhill, oddly enough, and that turn 7, it's a pretty high-speed turn there, certainly not a passing opportunity, but then you'll head down to turn 8, which is the left-hander right before you get to the carousel. Turn 8, definitely a passing area there, but that carousel, long, sweeping right-hand turn. It is a turn that you need to very slowly, carefully feed throttle into the car, and it's always a challenge to make sure that you don't have the car start to understeer and come out from underneath you as you come out of it through turn 10 into what is probably one of the most fearsome turns in American motor racing, the kink, which is for many cars a full throttle, foot to the floor, right-hand turn, very sharp. And if you turn in, Finian, just even a couple feet early, it's going to put you off driver's left right into the Armco.
And you got to be very careful heading through there. We've seen time and time again on Sim TV, and I think even in real-world action, claim a bunch of race cars, and then down another straightaway yet again into Canada Corner, another fearsome part of the track as well. Many of drivers have tried to make a late move, dive bomb to the inside, and either you get some carnage or you get some drivers going off into the sand trap conveniently placed at the end of the straight. Then through a little bit of a kink through turns 13, and then back to the front straightaway through turn 14, the final turn. And that will complete a lap at Road America. Here looking at Thomas Layton in the 9 Ferrari, and there's a thing with the Ferraris we got to mention too, considering that most of the drivers in the field here tonight are running Ferrari machinery.
Yeah, Finian, and you know, we've seen from week to week where the drivers have been jumping from platform to platform. There are a number of different cars in the GT3 class that the racers can use. Of course, we see here the Ferrari the Ferrari 488 GT3 cars. We've got the McLaren MP412s, the Mercedes-AMG GT3s, also the BMW Z4s. And what we've seen from week to week is, you know, there's sometimes a horse for the course. And so we saw a lot of drivers, for example, last week, we saw a lot of them in very different cars. We saw some in the McLarens. We saw a number of them in the Mercedes as well. A couple of weeks ago when I was with you at Sonoma Raceway, we had a number of drivers in the BMW Z4s and also I might also add one other chassis is, of course, the Audi R8 as well. And so, you know, we have drivers that have really picked what they think is going to be the best car. Now, we're watching Ken Hausiel with those beautiful flames shooting out the back of his McLaren, and he is the only McLaren in the field this weekend. And you know, Ken has been, much like some of the other drivers, jumping from chassis to chassis. He's been primarily driving the BMW Z4, and he made the move over to the McLaren thinking that it might give him an advantage, and I think he's found otherwise in testing so far.
Yeah, I was talking to him a little bit earlier in Discord because I was just curious, you know, why he picked the McLaren. I was like, you know, did you pick it on purpose? Was this a mistake? You know, did you just collect the wrong car when you're signing up for the session? He's like, no, I did this on purpose, and he seemed struggling a little bit. He said the problem is the fact that the Ferraris have a pretty big advantage, and it's kind of hard to disagree with them considering the entire top 7 you're looking at on screen, all of those drivers in Ferraris.
Yeah, and so one of the knocks against the McLaren is that it is a car that you have to drive on the knife edge. It can be very twitchy. It can be very hard to handle as a driver. And I think we just saw that with Ken Hausiel as the car got very, very loose on him going down into turn 5. So again, he's going to be struggling with that all evening long. Now, luckily for him, this is only a series of 220 race weekends that we have here in the Washington, D.C. region, which are hour-long endurance races. So, you know, he'll be able to at least take a little bit of a break. Ooh, as Robert Porter there in the 136 car, you can see gets it wrong. Now, that was going through the kink, the turn that we mentioned that eats up a lot of cars, and so that was definitely problematic for him. But you know, at least Halcyon he'll have a little bit of an opportunity to get a breather between between sessions. Whereas if he had to run that car for an entire hour, that could definitely be a challenge for him. All right, so we are now, I believe we've got, what, about a little bit less than a couple seconds left in qualifying here. Let's take a look at how qualifying is played out. The drivers had a 15-minute qualifying session. And so do we want to take a look at the weather conditions, or maybe run down the grid here as we get things ready for it? It's going to be
sure. We don't have a lot of time. I just need to make one correction, so don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
All right, and we're back now. I had to take care of some technical issues as we get ready for the first of the two 25-minute races, and we have the field lining up now on the grid, and we'll take a look now at the front row, and our pole sitter is going to be Thomas Layton, and all these drivers up at the front of the field, they're all driving the Ferrari 488s. Tom Layton is going to be your pole sitter. Sitting next to him on the outside of the front row, Mark Shrivastava. Starting on the second row in third position, it's going to be Christopher Lapras in the number 8 car. Good to see Lapras in a Ferrari. He had been driving the Audi R8 for a number of weeks. Robert Porter will be starting on the outside of the second row in the number 136 car. He's starting fourth. On the third row, on the inside, it's going to be Evan Schickel, and in the number 33 car, starting to the outside of row number 3 will be Andrew Kessel. He is starting in 6th. Then we've got Sly Stafford in the number 719 car. He's starting 7th on the inside of the 4th row. Ken Hausiel in the first non-Ferrari in his McLaren will be starting on the outside of that row. He'll be starting 8th. Then we've got Francois Breu, once again in the Mercedes AMG, the number 69 car. He's starting 9th. And then Murphy Nichols starting in 10th as our field gets the green flag, Finian.
Indeed, in the race down to turn 1, very treacherous here. We got 3 wide almost in the background there. That was Kessel. That almost made a move to the inside of Robert Porter. Looks like you're going to keep it okay. Whoa, a big crash. And now Sale involved in a massive crash in turn 2 involving several drivers.
Yeah,
and
I
already
think that might have been Porter that went off, if I remember correctly. Looking at the purple car there, that is... Or was that, oh no, was that Evan Schickel in the 33 car? He came out of turn number 2 and went into the wall and ended up getting our 1 McLaren, got Ken Hausiel. So we'll have to see how he deals with it. But the rest of the field continues on, coming out of turn 5, up the hill, underneath the Corvette bridge, and through turn 6, and now into that very quick entry, what they call the hurry downs, over at turn 7.
Yeah, we'll take a look at after these guys complete lap number 1, we'll take a look back at the wreck at the start, taking out a bunch of major competitors, especially Ken Hausiel. And, you know, Ken, again, struggling with the McLaren to qualify in a decent spot, and this is not doing him any favors here.
No, certainly not if he's going to have to work his way up through the field. And we can see now as our drivers are making their way through the carousel for the very first time, the different lines that the drivers will take through there. And it all is the question of then getting a quick exit so that they can carry speed through this section right here, the kink. And again, if you get it even just a little bit wrong and you put a couple wheels off in the grass, it can really end your day. But now as the drivers make their way through Canada Corner, down at turn 12 is Canada Corner, and then up through Thunder Valley, they're going to get set up for our very last turn, which is turn 14, which will bring them onto the front straight, and that is known as the Road America Straight, and there is this huge rise heading up the hill to complete the very first lap.
And a very famous rise too. Everyone talks about it when you come here. Especially, it's just great to see these cars come up up the hill, and then you see these guys coming side by side, like you see Sly Stafford and Robert Porter here fighting for 14th place. Here they go down into turn 1. It looks like Stafford's going to be successful. Not quite. Robert Porter's still going to fight on that outside.
Yeah, and if he can maintain that position there as they come, it's going to be a little bit harder going into turn 3 right here because of the nature of that turn and how it's very easy for you to just run out of pavement if you're stuck to the outside line. But it looks like he managed to hold on there and keep the position, which is going to set him up as they make the very, very long run down the moraine sweep down towards turn number 5, which is going to be the very first heavy braking turn, which is downhill, as you can see. 90-degree left-hand turn, much like a lot of the turns here are at Road America, 90 degrees, but the car really puts a lot of weight on the nose there. Very difficult turn to navigate when you're hard on the brakes.
And you see Colin Danner there riding in the middle of these guys at a pretty good start all the way back in 11th, is currently up in a 5th and still climbing. You saw him make the pass in Stafford. He's still not done looking at Porter. Potentially he can move himself up in a 4th, but our top 3 have completely checked out from the rest of the field after a lap and a half. There's Thomas Layton in second place. You got Christopher Lapras and Mark Sharosova in 3rd. Again, all Ferraris, your top 5.
Yeah, and already a pretty decent gap between each one of our top 3 cars, about a second and a half between each one, about 5 car lengths, maybe even a little bit more between each as they come through the kink now and make their way down through Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner. Really, and it's a beautiful, bright day here at Road America, but that section of the track, Kettle Bottoms, has trees overhanging the course, and it can get very dark and very disconcerting for the drivers as they go from dark back into light, and you can just have the sun come into your eyes in some very strange places. Now, I guess we're going to go back and take a look at that start, and we have, you'll see here, watch Evan Schickel in the purple car, currently running in 4th, as he comes through turn number 1. Yeah, and he already got into one of the other cars there coming out of turn 1, and it just went all downhill from there.
Andrew Kessel there in the 12, Murphy Nichols in the 5. You see he went flying off the track. He got some significant nose damage to his machinery, so he was out. Seal, that car actually doesn't look that okay, never mind.
The car looked a little twitchy in qualifying. That it might not be all that much worse for him. But it looked like the majority of the drivers did manage to continue on. Andrew Kessel back in the number 12 car, though. We'll see, because we are showing him as being a lap down. He may have taken that car back to the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we got Thomas Lee riding on board with him, the only BMW Z4 in the field, which is honestly kind of surprising because we actually thought that we would start to get more of these cars as the season went on, because these cars, the BMW machinery, looked really strong at Canadian Tire and also even at Sonoma for that matter.
Yeah, they've got good power, they've got good torque off the corners, and they seem to be one of the more stable platforms as well. Not quite as twitchy as the Ferrari is, and I think a lot of that has to do with simply a lot of it has to do with the engine placement. Yeah, a little surprising that we don't have the Z4 there, but it could very well be, and I haven't checked. I did not have a chance to check in with many of the drivers during the week, during practice, to see what their feeling was if maybe the Z4 just did not have the ultimate speed here.
Yeah, and also I forgot to mention at the top of the broadcast, if you want to follow your favorite drivers here tonight at Road America, because obviously if you can't catch all the action, feel free to go to broadcasting.com/live timing to follow along with your favorite drivers at home. As you see now, Lee and Stafford side by side through this part of the track. Not a particular part of the track you want to be side by side with.
Yeah, it's a little difficult there coming through Thunder Valley, but actually it's not a bad passing opportunity. Oh, and we've got the Z4 goes off wide. Well, let's see. I thought it might try and make a run for the pit lane, but there you could see as Thomas Lee had a really bad run out of turn 14 back onto the Road America straight. But Thunder Valley coming out of Canada Corner is actually a section of the track that you may see cars go side by side. But when you rise up out of Thunder Valley and go through that Billy Mitchell bend, that last little left-hander, which comes up over a rise, it's actually a rise over the tunnel, which brings you into the paddock area. You definitely don't want to be all the way over drivers right, because it can then be very difficult to set up for that final turn onto the front straight.
Here's a funny little thing. If you want to talk about, it's not really even consistency, but this is more just an impressive fact nonetheless. This is a pretty long track, Greg. I think we can agree to that. Very long lap as well. Over 2 minutes. It's considered long for most racetracks. Take a look at this with the lap times for these drivers.
Yeah,
I don't know where that delta came. Oh, never mind. I'm dyslexic.
I was gonna say the fact that one's 351 and the other one's 531.
Oops. My bad. I looked at it. I saw a 3, a 5, and a 1, and I assumed that it was the same. Never mind. Okay, so disregard.
Look, if you could run the same lap time over the 4+ miles of Road America, then yes, that would absolutely be something special. But they didn't.
Yeah, it's got to swap the 3 and the 5, and then it would be identical. It's still fairly close, all things considered.
Yes.
But you saw there that Lapras indeed pulling away from Shrivastava, but up ahead of them, and this is kind of more what we expect with Thomas Layton. He's been phenomenal in this series so far. He's been really hooked up with this machinery and just taking off, and he's been pulling an impressive gap back all the way to Lapras behind him.
Yeah, and of course, Tom Layton was our winner last week at Silverstone with a pretty commanding win over Mark Shrivastava. 42 seconds was the margin of victory over Shrivastava. That a great battle for second between Shrivastava and Francois Breu. I believe only about half a second separated them at the line after a full hour of racing. But Layton's really separated himself out. We talked a few moments ago how there was about a second and a half between Layton and our second place runner Lapras. Well, now we're up to about 2.5 seconds. Great battle going on here. Yeah. Oh, and they touch. And that's Colin Daner and is that Daner and Breu, I believe?
I think it is here as you see Daner trying to make a move on Sly Stafford here. And yeah, heading down into turn 5. Daner will get really close to the bumper of Daner and goes to the outside. It's a really tough place to make a move. You see how much time he lost by doing so.
Yeah, when you go around the outside there is not a ton of grip, and now you see that there are some gator teeth on the outside of turn 5, but they are very, very deep. They will definitely unsettle the car, and you will lose speed if you go a little bit too far to the outside there. And now you can see setting up, maybe getting a little bit defensive, going down into turn number 8, and then as they come under now what is the Road America Bridge, and in real life it's known as the Speedville Bridge. They go into the carousel here, and you see Daner taking a slightly wider entrance to the carousel, but a little bit better job on exit and carries a little bit more speed coming out of the carousel than Sly Stafford, and he's going to be able to draft right back up as they go through Kettle Bottoms.
Yeah, also, just wanted to point out, too, I didn't realize a bit of a mistake, another mistake on my end, as you see these guys heading through Canada Corner. Ooh, looked like Stafford was in there a little bit too hot, but gonna keep it corrected. This is not the Spec Racer Fords at Road Atlanta. This is at Road America, the Washington, D.C. SCCA. I accidentally took the wrong stream key. I went to the wrong link that we had set up for that, so oopsie daisy there.
Well, nobody wanted to watch us anyhow. Now, I don't know if you noticed there, as they start to come up the hill, Daner in the number 2 car, big puff of smoke coming out of turn 14, and I can't imagine that he would have downshifted when he needed to upshift, but I mean, it's possible. I mean, especially when you take a look at the driver behind the wheel, you know, you can't really look past what he might see.
Ooh, and Stafford getting very poor exit out of turn 3, and here they come yet again down the run to turn 5.
Yeah, and this is the second time that Daner's got a good run, and this time Daner's going to be to the inside. He's going to hopefully hold out Stafford, and we'll see now under braking. Yeah, gets clear, doesn't come all the way across his nose.
Overshot.
But overshot, and you can see how he went over top of some of that exit curbing there, which did not help his cause either. So he had gotten a great run out of 3, but unfortunately, just overbroke going down into turn 5.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about ABS too. You know, you can slam on it, and it's really nice. It's very convenient. You can just go full on the brakes and have it lock up, slow down efficiently. That being said, you can't ask anything more of it once you jump on the brakes. You just gotta hope you get the thing slow down for the quarter in time.
You get on the pedal, 5 feet too late, and you end up slowing the car down 5 feet too late. So, and you
gift and a curse, ABS.
Yeah.
As you see these guys work through the kink, not too much action going on out the front. Again, Layton doing a fantastic job leading this race as they did winning last week at Silverstone. Lapras trying to chase him down. And are we surprised that, I'm actually kind of curious, do you think the Audi R8 would have been a little bit better here than the Ferrari? Do you think it would have been worse for Lapras to still be in the R8?
Yeah, I think, it's kind of hard to judge. The R8, definitely a little bit more, maybe a slight touch more stable than the Ferrari, but I think we've seen that on long runs, the Ferrari maybe has a little bit more top speed. And when you have this long course here, if you can trim out the car enough, I mean, it's all about straight line speed here at Road America with these very long straights as we come underneath the Cheese Bridge, the Sargento Bridge, making that way out of turn 3 down to turn 5 again. You can see, even with the speed of these GT3 cars, how these straightaways just seem to go on forever.
Yeah.
It's as long as you can make up. I'm pretty confident that the Audi would probably be slightly better on some of these corners, and you might even be able to get a little bit better jump off some of the slower corners than the Ferrari as the torque comes in a little bit faster. But I think what you gain there, you probably lose in the straight line speed.
Absolutely, but yeah, again, really good showing from the Ferraris here tonight. Done a fantastic job. We got out of the top 8, 7 of them are Ferraris. The one driver that isn't a Ferrari in the top 7, top 8 drivers is Francois Brou, running really solidly in 5th in his Mercedes.
Yeah, and we've seen Francois run in the Mercedes almost every single week here in the WDCR series, and he's starting to move his way. As some of the drivers had some issues on that very first lap, he's moved up in the order a little bit. So as you can see, he is sitting 5th. That said, he is still about 2 seconds back from Rob Porter in the 136 car. You can see Porter just a little bit ahead there, making his way up through Billy Mitchell.
And you can see there on screen as well for between the lap times between Porter and Brou, that it's been in Porter's favor. He extended it by almost 0.3 of a second last lap as they come across the line this time by. We'll see if that does change. I think this might swing more into Porter's favor as Brou comes across the line, and a little bit more equal in time.
Yeah, very, very close this time by. But again, a slight advantage to Porter there. And I think this kind of plays, as we were just talking about the trade-offs between the Audi and the Ferrari, I think maybe very much the same. Oh, let's see, is this Colin Daner that went around?
Yeah, I think he did. Is the final corner here coming back into the straightaway. Ooh, caught a little bit too much grass.
Yep, coming through turn 14. Put a wheel off in the grass, and there's a decent amount of runoff area there on the outside of 14. You can see it there where the drivers will take advantage of every last bit of runoff pavement there, but there's that fine line. You drop your wheel into the dirt there and get on the throttle at the same time, it's going to send your car around.
Absolutely. So Colin Daner will continue to run in 8th place, and also we didn't get a chance to do our weekly thing of looking at Colin Daner's beautiful helmet. Well,
that's what I was saying earlier, that when Colin was side by side with Sly Stafford, that maybe he was having trouble seeing out the windshield since his eyes are very high on his head there. Not the creepiest in-car view we've seen from Colin Daner in the DC series, however.
No, it hasn't been. But yeah, looking at these guys, this watching Daner work through the field has been interesting. Oh, as you see, I think, was that Dave? No, that was not Dave Fitzgerald. That up back. Oh, that was Kessel, who's currently last in 14th. He is, 6 laps down.
Yeah, he's running 6 laps down, and we'll have to take a look because I think Murphy Nichols in the Brewdog car, the number 5 car, he's sitting on the pit lane, and looks like his day, well, I don't say his day, but this race looks like he's pretty much done, and he's going to be waiting for the next race to go by. It should be only a matter of time before Kessel unlaps himself and passes up Nichols in the order if it's any small consolation.
Looking back at Francois Brou, and it seems like this gap is starting to come down. There you see the gap between these two drivers. So that is 5/10 in Brou's favor.
Yeah, we're now down under 2 seconds, about about 1.8 seconds, so he's knocked a little bit of time off, but we only have now about 3.5 laps to go, and it's not a lot of time for the amount that Brew is making up each and every lap. It's going to be a little bit tough for him to, I think, get up to Rob Porter by the time this race finally counts down.
And Mark Shrivastava and Christopher Lapras, trying to look at these guys. Their last lap looking more or less they're pretty close to each other, running a 206.237 for Lapras, for Shrivastava 206.317. So very close on the timesheets for these guys. However, none of them are really even close to Leighton's pace last lap through, almost a second faster. Yeah,
right now Lapras is sitting almost 5 full seconds back from our leader, Thomas Leighton. And Leighton has just been putting down, more or less putting down qualifying laps. Each and every lap here, he is head and shoulders above the rest of the field right now. And again, with about, now as he's coming down in the Canada corner with about 3.25 laps left to go in this race, his key and his goal is just to run consistent laps to hit his marks and bring the car home.
You see second and third place, Lapras and Shrivastava, and then there's you can kind of see the gap there, little over 5 seconds between Lapras to the rest of the field. Looking on back, Drew's been making up some very big inroads now.
Yeah,
1.5 seconds to Port up ahead.
Yeah, right after I said that it was going to be difficult for Brew to get up to Rob Porter, he's really starting to close things down here as this race winds down. And I don't know if it comes down to tires or whether or not maybe Rob is spending a little bit of extra time looking in his mirrors.
I actually just realized I had it the opposite way before. This is the correct way to have it. You can see that's a 0.15 seconds in Brew's favor. The only thing that I got to consider, though, at this point, do you think he's got enough time to catch Porter? Because obviously we always say, catching is one thing, passing is another. We're only going to have 3 laps for these guys.
Well, and again, about a lap ago, I would have said no. But at the rate now that Brew is starting to knock time off, I think he'll at least be there. And and the question then becomes whether or not he can rattle Rob Porter enough and maybe work Porter into making a mistake. But I think on speed and that's probably not going to happen. Brew just doesn't have the ultimate pace. He's not going to be able to just drive by Rob Porter as long as Porter can set the car up with a good defensive entry into some of these corners and knowing which corners to do it at so that he doesn't sacrifice exit speed, too much exit speed. I think he should be fine.
Yeah, Porter come on through the carousel, another really tricky section here, and just about how important really is it to get that run out of the carousel for the straightaway?
Well, when you look at it, probably the second longest straight here is the entrance to the carousel all the way down to Canada corner. I would consider that to be one long straight, and so being able to progressively feed throttle in going through the carousel without having the front end of the car wash out on you is really very, very important. But as much as you get a good run out of the carousel, if you don't have the nerve going into the kink, you can end up losing everything that you gained coming out of the carousel just by lifting off the throttle for a couple beats. So that's always a huge challenge here as well. And the thing is, and it may not matter so much for these shorter 25-minute races, but the carousel is a tire eater as well. And if you go and you enter that wrong, and you can spend all your time fighting the car trying to keep it in and keep it from pushing out on the exit. And if you do, you can pretty much run your tires off over the course of a race. I don't think that's going to be such a factor here for these 25-minute runs.
Yeah, again, we've been updating it every lap to just take a look, and again, another solid 0.4 of a second that Brew made up on Porter. Here's we got 2 laps to go, just about, even a little bit less than that. Guys head to turn 5, and at the front, I think safe to say, as long as Leighton doesn't make a mistake, he should be able to ride home with this. But obviously, another lap is pretty long around here, as we were talking about earlier. But for the most part, I don't think he has any lap traffic up ahead. Should be clear.
Yeah, and we can see him coming through the carousel now on these very long laps. As you mentioned, it's, again, a 4-mile, 17-turn course built into the Kettle Moraine. And at this point, it doesn't look like he has much ahead of him. Of course, we have another lap to go once he crosses the start-finish line, but it should be a fairly easy run for Thomas Layton as long as he can keep the car underneath him.
Andrew Kessel all the way in the back in 13th and the 12th. This car battered and bruised after running earlier, so not sure if he's gonna just pull it into the pits and call it a day, a lap early. I guess he might as well. I think he figures he's not gonna make up 5 laps to Thomas Lee. So he's gonna just, I think, call it a race here. But Layton gonna come across the hill and across the line. White flag for the number 9 car.
All right, so we are on the last lap now, and if we take a look at the gaps back to our second place runner, Christopher Lapras, almost 6 seconds back. There's Lapras now coming down the front straight. It looks like Kessel decided to just take the long run down the pit lane. I can't imagine that it had anything to do with traffic, but the pit lane at Road America is incredibly long. You saw that, you make the entrance to the pit lane going up the hill out of turn 14, and it doesn't dump you back out onto the track until you get down to turn 1. So it's almost, time-wise, almost half a lap. All right, let's take a look here. We've got Colin Daner once again with...
That is Harry Horning in the 28, who's going to just get on by Dana. Dana going to try to maybe do a switchback here, get a run off of turn 1 to turn 2. Doesn't look like he quite can, but he's still got to get another straightaway to work with here if he can get a good exit out of turn 3. And indeed he does. You can see how much better he sets up the corner than Horning.
Yeah, carried a lot more speed there, but you see now Horning now sitting not quite center of track, but he's going to make it very hard for Daner to come down the inside. But now, Horning gave Daner the line. And Daner's got a good run coming down into turn 5. We'll see if he can get on the brakes. He gets on the brakes a little bit earlier this time, but Horning able to go right on by with that traditional entry into 5.
Through turn 6, very slow section here. Daner potentially a look up to through turn 7. You can't really make a pass through there. It's pretty tough to do so, but again, just try to build up a run. Can't quite get anything done here into turn 8 now.
Oh, you see Horning gets a little loose on exit there.
And the run through the carousel. You see Daner again. This is the final chance he's got to make a move. You can see him try to take a tighter line on exit to make a move on Horning by the end of the straight. We'll see how it plays out for him. But up for a lead across the line, Thomas Layton will come. He will win race number 1 as we look back to that battle for 7th place.
All right, and as they come now through the Kettle Bottoms into Canada Corner, and Horning able to hold off Daner. Daner running a little bit wide on exit through Canada Corner, but as they make their way up through Thunder Valley for the very last time and onto the front straight, we'll have to see if Horning can hold the car coming through 14, and he gets the turn, turns in a little bit early, might have lost a little bit speed here. But
missed a shift. Here we go down into the grass. Here we go as Daner trying to wrestle his way back around Horning. It's not going to be enough. Horning going to finish in 7th, Daner in 8th.
Yeah, you could see there Daner was looking to see which way he should go. Should he go to the inside? Should he go to the outside? And that front straight, that Road America straight, is a very, very wide piece of track. It actually gets to the point where with some of these cars, you can sometimes fit 4 cars wide there. It's a tricky situation when you do, and I've seen it more times than not where you go from 4 cars to no cars because at least one of them will slam into the wall. But Daner there was he was looking for a way to go. He ended up dropping a wheel into the grass on driver's left, and that might have spelled the doom for him because he would have lost probably that just a little bit of extra momentum he needed to cross the line ahead of Horning. And so Horning brings the car home in 7th. Daner finishes in 8th.
Yeah, there you see the race results on screen here. Layton winning race number 1 here. Don't go anywhere, though. We had a 125-minute race, and we're going to have another in a little bit. So with that, I think we'll cut to a little bit of a break. Me and Greg will take a little bit of a breather, and we'll be back for race number 2. All right, and we're back here at Road America, and we are gridding currently for race number 2. We don't have much time due to the very short gridding process, so we'll get immediately down to the grid here. And Greg, what do you think will be different, really, if anything, that we'll see after race number 1?
Well, we're going to have to see if Lapras and Travastova can keep up the pace. Now, Ken, the gridding order here for this race is based on the finishing order from our first race. And, you know, Leighton pretty much had his way from the drop of the green flag to the finish. So, you know, it's going to be up to Lapras, Travastova, and maybe Porter to some extent to maybe get in Leighton's head just a little bit on the start and give them a little bit of an opportunity, give them a fighting chance here. Because if Leighton can scoot away from the rest of the field by turn 5 on the first lap, I think we might end up seeing a repeat of the first race.
The green flag in the air for Leighton, leading the field down to green as he did in race number 1, has been the man to beat. But as we file off down through turns 1 and 2, we'll see if we see any chaos, especially with the 23 of Ken O'Seal. Didn't really get a chance to flex his muscles, if anything, in that McLaren MP4. We're going to try to make a workaround of Francois Breu, but gets caught up by the Mercedes heading down through turn 2, and we see some side-by-side action midfield with Mark Travastova and Sly Stafford on the outside in that white and green car, making a move, and Daner in behind as well.
Oh, and we have Murphy Nichols. It looks like he has gone off coming out of turn number 3. That is the second race in a row where he's gone off at turn 3. We'll have to see if he can continue as our leader. Thomas Leighton followed by Rob Porter in the 136 car. And this wasn't really something that I expected, was to see Porter up in second position here on the first lap. But he is holding pretty strong, trying to keep up with our leader now as they head through turn 7 and into the hurry downs.
Yeah, indeed, running on board with Colin Daner. Another really good start for him. He's been nailing these starts, and you can see here, started in 8th, up into 5th. Last race, he started in 11th, but was up into 5th by this point. Ooh, as he has a little bit of internet connectivity issue, but he's back immediately here with a really solid start.
Yeah, and as the front of our pack makes their way through the carousel now, you could see Daner trying to make a move on Travastova as they come through. Daner a little bit wide going through the kink. Yep, and Daner now into the wall, and he's going to, we'll have to see, almost comes across the track right in front of Francois Breu and Ken O'Seal, but manages to hold things off. And through all of that, O'Seal manages to get around Francois Breu, but in addition to that, Andrew Kessel in the number 12 car. Now remember, Kessel had issues in the first race due to that first lap incident where he was pretty much tooling around at the back of the field. He gets around Francois Breu as well.
Travastova, I'm not sure if he had a slowdown or what. I think might have just got a very poor exit out of the final corner. He's going to fall back behind. You know, see, we'll take a look and see what happened in here. Oh, I just went, caught out some grass. We've seen a lot of drivers do that, but a fantastic job saving that Ferrari there.
Yeah, great save there as he went wide going through turn 14 onto the Road America straight, but that gave Ken O'Seal another position. So O'Seal now up to 4th in the number 23 McLaren. And you can see he's got the flames flying out the back there. This is absolutely the most gorgeous view, as you can see. We
didn't really get a chance to use this view after he was involved in the wreck in race number 1. We get to see the flames firing about, and man, they need to put more exhaust in this area, like with the McLaren.
Yeah, very high up. There we go, as we have the overrun under braking going into turn number 5 as O'Seal puts on the afterburners and heads out of turn 5. It looks like Francois Breu had a problematic exit out of turn 5, and he's going to give up a position now to the BMW Z4 of Thomas Lee. So Francois Breu, pretty disastrous start. He falls all the way back to 10th position now.
Yeah, and
as they come out.
After starting all the way up in 5th too, he's got a lot of work cut out for him. Fortunately for him, everyone he's competing with is pretty much right ahead of him here as they all file on through the carousel.
Yeah, so, I was going through and looking at the overall points on the series. Now, again, the Washington, D.C. region series, it's an 8-week series, and we're only on week number 4 right now. And currently, Mark Travastova, who is currently running 5th in this race, he is our points leader, or was our points leader going into tonight with 66 total points. Tom Leighton was running second in the overall order with 60 points. So I think after that first race that the two drivers should be tied, but if Leighton can hold on, obviously we'll have a new points leader after this evening.
Yeah, indeed, we will see Evan Schickel in the back there in that purple Ferrari. We saw him was the leading cause of that lap 1, turn 1 incident. Got loose in the corner, took out a myriad of cars, but he's back now after starting in 9th, has worked up to 7th place, and has been working pretty well. He's currently riding in behind Kessel, and both these guys now able to finally flex their muscles here after being absent for that for the most of that first race.
Yeah, now we'll have to see, as those two drivers now don't have damaged cars underneath them, how well they can run, as looks like Schickel might have a little bit, at least coming out of turn 3 there, onto the Moraine sweep. Looks like he might have a little bit better handling car, but again, very early in the race, and I think as we're just now on starting lap 3, a lot of these drivers are still trying to get the tires underneath them, trying to get some heat in the tires, and they're still dealing with some suboptimal handling from these cars.
Yeah, Robert Porter with a great start was able to take second place. Notably, Christopher Lapras did not, if I'm not mistaken, did not start this race. All the way back in 14th, so after running really well, I believe finished third?
Third, yeah, finished third. Yeah, did not make the field, so that's going to affect him now. Lapras currently running 6th in the points in the DC Region Series, so that might affect him as well, having an entire race where he's not going to pick up any points.
Riding on board with Kessel, Scheckel was all the way up to the back bumper of this Ferrari through the carousel. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get too good a run there. You see a little bit of a flash of the headlights to distract Kessel just a little bit. Kessel unfazed. Ooh, up ahead of them. Schrossrow trying to make work of Ken Halseal. And Halseal, again, I don't think he's going to be having too much fun because he's going to have 3 Ferraris, arguably faster cars than that McLaren, all right in behind him.
Yeah, and you can see he was struggling with the car coming out of Canada Corner. Again, that car, it's very much on the knife edge. You have to really, I don't want to say manhandle it. You can't manhandle it. You have to be very, very gentle but deliberate with that car in order to make speed. And the Ferraris arguably are a little bit easier to drive around this Road America course, though, as Halseal is able to hold them off. And you can see, even coming into turn 1 now, he doesn't get defensive because he doesn't think that Travastovo is going to be close enough up to him to try and make a move into turn 1. But it's going to be
Schickel and Kessel make contact. Kessel going to go flying off into the gravel trap. And
so he goes off, and he's now going to drop back to looks like all the way back to 9th behind Thomas Lee. Let's take a look here again. We'll follow it as they come through turn 1, and we'll see as they get together. And it looks like they just didn't give each other a lot of racing room there. It wasn't necessarily a byproduct of the corners here. It looks like Kessel was trying to go side by side into turn 3, and they just kind of got together.
Yeah, and Kessel able to get the car back on the track, and we're going to be all the way back in 10th place, so not a particularly good run. I mean, it's better than where he started, obviously, but considering where he was running up in the midst of the battle for the top 5, he's not going to be too particularly happy with that. Francois Brou, also, you see right ahead, still trying to climb back forward, is currently up into 9th.
Yeah, it's the second race in a row where Kessel is going to be working his way from more or less the entire, from the rear of the field.
You see Ken Halseal that worked through the King's Crossroad a little bit offline. Again, you got to be so careful with that exit curb. We saw Colin Diener almost completely wipe out at the beginning of the race. Did a fantastic job saving that car. Although he did get some damage. I believe he might have come down pit road. It looks like he did. He got service to that machine.
Yeah, I believe he did come down into the pits, but he is... he's back out on track, for better or for...
Yeah, he's better for worse. He's got his eyes peeled now, trying to make sure he doesn't make the same mistake again.
I don't know what it is, but every one of those helmet designs, it just looks like the eyes just see right through me. I don't know what to say.
Especially the human face ones. The cartoon ones are fine. It's the human face ones that are really creepy. But we're looking here. Robert Porter trying to defend from Sly Stafford. There's their gap. Ken Halseal still doing a good job defending from Shrivastava in behind him. I mean, if you're Shrivastava, what do you do being in behind this McLaren? You know that more or less you're the faster car But what do you do with that information?
I think if you can get close enough to Ken Halseal, what you want to do is you want to get him to start playing a defensive game, to start taking suboptimal lines into these corners, something that is going to upset that McLaren and make it more difficult for him to navigate some of these corners. Now, again, most of these corners, they're 90-degree turns here. So even if you're taking the entry from a little bit from the inside, from the center of the track, what have you, you have to take into account how much runoff room you're going to have. But it's not like you have a lot of decreasing radius turns here, which make it even harder. But you just have to get up close enough so that he isn't running the traditional racing line here.
Yeah, you can see him trying to work through the carousel again. Ooh, he seems a little bit wide here. Gonna just barely get some curb and a little bit of grass as well.
Yeah, and and that is where the McLaren is very, very good. The lightweight of the McLaren, how nimble it is, it does a very good job on those very long steady state turns. And you can see here now is Shrivastava trying to get underneath Ken Halseal, going into Canada corner, and they've got Evan Schickel along for the ride as well. I think probably the best thing that Halseal's got going for him right now is Evan Schickel, because every single time they get down to one of these slower, heavier braking corners, Shrivastava has to look behind him as opposed to looking in front.
Ooh, you see Ken get very defensive. I think more so than we've seen before. A little bit of a bob and a weave down the front straightaway.
Yeah, he's trying to break that draft.
There's always a debate, too, whether or not that move is actually effective. Well, what are your opinions on that?
Well, it depends with the speed of these cars. I can tell you with the slower horsepower cars like my Honda that I run at Road America, you go and make a move like that, and typically if the other guy just holds his line, he's going to drive right by you. That he's got enough. He has enough built up from the draft that he can get the pass.
Speaking of which, here comes Shrivastava. Sorry, on
Shrivastava. Shrivastava drops a wheel driver's right. You can see there right before the curbing, and there's all the dirt over there, and under braking as the track. It's all the weight. The rear end of the car gets very, very light, and Shrivastava just had the rear end of the car walk away from him and puts it into the wall.
Big wipeout.
Yeah, and so that that helps Ken Halseal. Let's take a look at it from behind the steering wheel of Shrivastava, and it happens quickly.
So unfortunate end, I wouldn't necessarily say end. You can come in to get a faster and get back out there, although I can't imagine he would particularly want to do that. Currently running in 9th, I would put him all the way back down the order, but it looks like he's starting to struggle. It was a pretty solid hit with the wall, so I'd imagine he's going to want to come in for repairs.
Although it puts him right back there with with Andrew Kessel.
Looking back at it, and now Evan Schickel trying to make a big move here on Ken Halseal. He's been sizing him up for quite a bit, and he's so close. Yeah. And now he doesn't have Shrivastava to deal with. Ooh, as Ken Halseal gets very loose in the final corner.
Yeah, gets loose, and Schickel. Did Schickel take the car into the pit lane? And he does.
I think might have gone over the incident limit. And I don't quite know off the top of my head what it is, but it's not too terribly big. And I gotta imagine for that, because he didn't really have any damage, so that's really the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, might have just gotten a stop and go penalty, and you saw there, and he will take a look. Yeah, and he looks like he got right into the back of him.
You know what? That could be it, because remember, it's a 4X for making contact with another car. Actually, might have not hit him, or it could have registered. But
yeah, that's the only thing that I can think of. But you'll notice that as Schickel was sitting biding his time for the last couple of laps behind Shrivastava, Schickel I think certainly had a little bit better pace than Ken Halseal's McLaren, and was all over from the moment that
Harry Horning and Andrew Kessel making contact down into turn 5.
Kessel just is absolutely snake bitten this weekend, or this evening. Yep, and let's see what happens here as they come out of, they come down the Moraine sweep, heading down towards turn 5 and under braking.
Oh, and this again, we're talking about ABS. If
Yeah,
you get on it
like
5 feet too late, you're going to take another 5 feet to cut the car slow down.
Yeah, you know, and that's a tough thing there, because as Kessel came and he got, there was just that tiny little bit of overlap with Horning, and you know, Horning wasn't expecting to break that early, and if he didn't have that overlap, he probably would have been okay making the corner, you know, but he just had that little bit there that he needed to adjust, and he couldn't do it in time.
Go back live, and Harry Horning back in 9th place after that incident. He did get it. Also, going to just give also shout out to him as well. You know, he did the sportsman thing, let Kessel get back going back in front of him. So, you know, obviously, I'm sure Kessel's not going to be too thrilled with it, regardless. But I think, you know, it's a nice. At least he admitted to, you know, his mistake, let him get back in line. Dave Fitzgerald, haven't really talked about a whole lot about him tonight. He's been having a fairly unremarkable race, at least for race 1. Race 2, he's been doing a little bit better, up all the way up into 7th place after starting in 11th.
Yeah, and he is the second of 2 of the Mercedes on track. Of course, the first one we were watching, Francois Breu, who continues to hold on to 5th position. So, you know, again, great. Well, I guess Breu, after that pretty disastrous start, he's made his way back up to 5th place now. Yeah,
and I don't know if I think you should be able to see this too. Is he's got some damage in the left rear, sorry, not left rear. There's the left side of the rear wing.
Yes.
And
yeah, you can see that little kink there as he might have backed into the wall at one part around the track here, and that's definitely going to hurt the straight line speed of these cars. For some of these corners, some of the higher speed corners, it may be a factor as well.
Oh, Leighton falling significantly down off the time. He's falling.
Oh, yeah,
he's also missing his bumper. That would be why. What on earth happened to Leighton?
Yeah, so our leader must have had an incident.
Let's
take a look here.
Yeah.
All right, let's see as he comes up the hill underneath the Corvette bridge at turn 6.
Yep. The curb.
Yeah, just got the edge of the curbing on the exit of turn 6, and you can see there where it goes from the traditional FIA curbing at the very end there, and didn't even make it to the little gator teeth at the end as he just brings the car across, and he still has the lead though.
It's gonna be barely, because right in behind there's two Ferraris knocking, and that's Robert Porter and Sly Stafford in behind. And wow, what a turn of events!
Definitely, and you know, and Rob Porter, who I think started 5th this race, you know, had that spectacular start, moved all the way up to 2nd, and he is in fighting position for the lead here. He's now coming up. Yeah, and he's now side by side with Tom Layton as they go down towards turn 1 and clear before they get to turn 1. Our new leader, Rob Porter.
Yeah, and also, you know, again, this is a little bit of a caveat due to the draft, but there was a 10-mile-an-hour difference between these two cars at the end of the straight, and that's not just due to the draft alone. It's definitely, you know, again, suffering what the front-end damage is going to absolutely destroy the aero, or just give this car significantly more drag down the straightaways. You can see how much more Porter's pulling on him. And here comes down Sly Stafford. He's going to do much of the same here, trying to make a pass for 2nd place. He's going to make a dive, and I think Layton can't really fight this too much.
He might be able to fight it here, and he's going to go side by side through 5, but it's a pretty much a fait accompli that as soon as they make their way around, and there you go, the pass is now done. And so the next question is, look who's next in line, Ken House-Seal. And, you know, he's still a good distance back. He's still about 3 seconds back from our 3rd place runner now, Tom Layton, but he's making up ground. And I don't want to say Layton's a sitting duck, but certainly does not have the strong car now.
Yeah, I think, you know, we saw the straightaway. I think House was on a little bit of a disadvantage compared to the Ferraris, but I don't think anything's going to be more advantageous than completely missing the front end of that car. And you can see even with the draft that Layton still falling way behind Stafford. Now I'm curious to see, you know, with Porter in the lead, this race is not all said and done yet. Stafford, he's been keeping Porter honest for most of this race and has been fairly close in behind. Interested in seeing if he could potentially come up here and try to pass Porter for the lead in these closing laps.
Yeah, as we now have just about we'll have what, about 3 laps to go this next time by, and at this point you see that certainly on the straightaways, Stafford doesn't have the pace of Porter either, and Layton's actually able to hold pretty close, and he's making most of that up in the corners. But again, Seal starting to close things down. That last lap knocked off 0.8 of a second.
And Stafford didn't particularly have a good run last lap. Didn't get past Layton, I think, as efficiently as Porter did. No. So there's the difference in times between those two drivers. But yeah, it's surprising. So kind of, I guess, disregard what I said earlier, that Layton's actually still able to hang out in behind.
Yeah, and I think as long as he stays close, all the damage at the front end of the car maybe doesn't matter as much. But again, I think he's getting most of it here. You can see, and I'll tell you, the braking, it probably isn't going to be optimal without the front of the car there either, because the nose doesn't get as much downforce as you'd want to optimize your braking.
And that's the big surprise thing I think a lot of people forget, is how much downforce is critical to slowing a car down. Typically you think about downforce, you think automatically cornering. But if you lose a wing, especially, in these cars, it'll be, the nose of these cars, or even the rear wings, but especially in open wheel cars, that gets significantly magnified. You could lose a lot of braking performance, and we've seen that with Layton. He misses braking point in turn 5. Also, Ken Seal getting awfully close to Layton. I think, again, as you're saying, not completely setting duck, but also this is not particularly, I don't think, in his favor, as he's trying to catch up to the back of that 9 car.
Yeah, I think given how Seal is wheeling that car, if he can get into Layton's draft, I think it's really going to change the game here.
Oh yeah, and you can see a big difference in the lap times. Last lap through, 2.5 seconds of what Ken Seal made up. But we'll see now that Layton's, I think, gotten a chance to get a little bit acclimatized to his new Ferrari. now featuring no aerodynamics on the front of it. He's and I think he's kind of at this point relying on Stafford to keep him up to pace. I think without the 719, he would be dropping like a rock.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's got the toe, and if it were probably any other racetrack but Road America, Layton would be in much worse shape than he is currently.
We see again now as we got 2 laps to go officially left in this race. The gap between Ken Seal and Layton, lap time wise, fell another second last time through. So Seal should be able to get on by, but I can't imagine Layton's going to make it too terribly easy. That's the final spot really he's got to defend for. So he's going to try to do the best he can to keep that 23 in behind.
And so I'll bet now that Mark Shrivastava, who came into this evening leading in the points, probably just knocking himself, thinking, what could he have done to keep from spinning that car out going into turn 5, as he sits now currently back, and you see him right behind Harry Horning. This is the battle for 9th now, but Shrivastava, who was up in the top 3.
Yeah, could have been leading this race. Probably, I would say, almost definitely leading this race. I think what has shown that he had more pace than Porter and Sly Stafford. So, yeah, it always comes like that as a driver. Always kicking yourself. What you could have done. I think you can kind of just revel in it. Your mistakes really at this point of the race, and it's kind of tough. But hopefully he can see himself get a better finish next week. But again, back up for our leaders. The gap's all closing in for the most part. Though it looks like Porter has been kind of managing that gap, if not pulling away from Sly Stafford here.
Yeah, and Stafford now has broken clear of Tom Layton, so that pull down the straightaways that Layton had for the last 2 laps doesn't have it any longer, and you can see how Seal really starting to close things in now.
Here we go as these guys come out of the final corner. They're going to see the white flag in the air. We got 1 more lap to go here at Road America. The battle for the lead, I don't want to say it's completely done yet. We saw Layton spin, and we thought that was almost next to impossible. He's been significantly consistent, especially last week at Silverstone. Had a great running there. Not so much here this week with that mistake in race number 2, and now he's got to worry about Ken Seal in that 23 chasing him down.
Yeah, and here you go. And you saw as they came up over the rise on the Road America straight that Layton already was moving the car a little bit to the inside just to try and hold Seal off just a little bit as they roll through turn 3, the downhill, slightly off camber corner there onto the very long marine sweep. And Halcyon now, he's going to try and move to the outside.
We'll see here they come down to turn 5. Halcyon, not
clear.
even a contest, going to blow by Layton on the straightaway. Oh, went wide, and he's back in behind the 9.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so Layton, and I thought for a moment there that Layton was just going to try the over-under, but you could see how late Halcyon was on the brakes and just could not get that car woed down.
Gonna go off, and Layton's gonna say, thank you very much, I'm gonna take that spot back.
And you know, that was Layton's best entry into turn 5 in 3 laps, and picked the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, and we saw him.
Lap.
Yeah, and as you're saying, we saw him overshooting his braking point down into that corner, so he's been able to adjust to it, and it looks like Halcyon might not be able to get by him.
Yeah, Halcyon's got a long way to get there. He might be able to pick up a little bit of ground coming down here through Kettle Bottoms and down into Canada Corner, but you know, being about 3.5, 4 car lengths off, I think he might have lost his best chance. Under braking there, turn 5, is our second place runner, Sly Stafford, runs a little wide going through Thunder Valley. And really, I think now with just one more corner to go, gives Rob Porter the breathing room that he needs.
Absolutely. He's come back into the front straightaway in one piece as he comes up and across the hill. Robert Porter will win race number 2 here at Road America. Sly Stafford going to come up in second place. And how about this, Layton? Fantastic job. Is going to be able to defend from Ken Halcyon and hold on to third place. Halcyon probably going to be a little bit disappointed in that. Going to come home in 4th.
Yeah, a little disappointing there, and we're watching now. Francois Brew comes across the line in his Mercedes. He's going to finish in 5th. And if all goes according to plan, our second Mercedes, that's Dave Fitzgerald in the number 91 car, he'll bring it home in 6th.
And he kind of waiting for the last few guys to come across the line. There's Evan Schickel, and this is also, I imagine he's going to be a little bit disappointed as well. Oh, he also picked up some nose damage I don't think was on the car earlier, but going to come home in 7th. That might have been from, I think, his contact with...
Yeah, I think that might have been with the get-together that he had with Andrew Kessel earlier.
Speaking of which, Kessel going to come home back in 8th place here as he comes through the final corner. We'll make it on through. Colin Daner a little bit disappointing. I think the way he, particularly the way he would have liked back in 9th after, again, he's been really good at these starts, all the way as high as 5th. He's going to finish one place down from where he started in 8th. With that, I think for the most part, it's going to wrap up our finishers here as Colin Daner comes up and across the hill. Take a quick look at your race results here in a moment. But, trying to find the... There we go. So I have a lot of cameras here in this place. I was trying to find it, but there we go. And here's another look at your race results, again, with Robert Porter taking a really solid win in race number 2, as we thought that Layton was just going to come away with it.
Yeah, a huge surprise to me as we saw him drop that wheel coming through turn 6 and really changed the complexion of the race. Brought Rob Porter and Sly Stafford, who, you know, for the longest time we didn't think had any chance of keeping up with Tom Layton, who would, you know, pretty much from the drop of the hat in qualifying showed that he was the example that was set here, that you know, it really opened things up, and it may have made some big changes in the overall point standings as well here in the DC Region Series, as we're now completed 4 of 8 weeks.
Indeed, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break here just to gather some drivers for you, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Wrong driver. There we go. Sly Stafford in the 719. Sly did a great job here at Road America. Finished in 6th in race number 1 and came back for a really solid 2nd place in race number 2. Walk us through how your night went.
It was pretty much just avoiding wrecks, it seemed like, and then not making mistakes on my own. I was worried about the cars behind me in the second race because of Ken coming up with the McLaren, but fortunately he didn't catch me.
Yeah, watching there, especially in that second race, you had Porter right ahead of you, and you've been kind of with him the whole race. Do you think that, if you did anything a little bit differently, do you think you would have been able to catch up to him for the lead?
I think if I would have kept it on a track a little bit better, I would have been able to, but it's so hard to pass on this track, and I kept making just little mistakes right before where I would have an opportunity.
All right, and with that, Sly Stafford, your second place finisher in race number 2. Sly, thanks for talking to us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Moving on we'll go to Thomas Layton first. Tom Layton, got a copy?
Hey, guys.
Hey, and I know, unfortunately, race 2 didn't go quite as planned for you. Ended up finishing back in 3rd with a damaged car. You're looking like you're going to be set to winning both races tonight, but what happened to you?
Yeah, I was just trying to run consistent laps, and that's all I was thinking about. And it was my race to lose, and I lost it. So I came out of a corner, and I just dipped a wheel into the grass, and it set me for a ride. And that's, I don't know, I just a lapse in concentration, I suppose. But it happens.
Yeah, it happens. Great job keeping everything together after that happened. Great battle there, as we saw you. I mean, you stuck with Sly Stafford for quite a bit there to hold on to 3rd, and great job on the very last lap going down into turn 5 when you saw that Ken Hausiel pretty much just outbraked himself. We saw that you were having some issues with braking going into turn 5 without all the downforce on the nose. Made some great adjustments there, and were able to basically come right underneath Hausiel to wrap up and hold on to that 3rd place position. But wanted to mention, from race 1, where you were able to just keep your head down, hit your marks, really a commanding great win. And I think overall, a very successful evening for you. And I think, Tom, that this probably puts you up to the top of the points order for the DC Region Series.
Yeah, I think it does. I think Mark was just in the lead prior to that. So I know he finished a bit further back, and Chris left. So I don't know if he just had real life stuff to take care of, but that definitely helped me.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so our winner in race 1, 3rd place finisher in race 2, Thomas Layton. Thanks for joining us, Thomas.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and now moving on to our race 2 winner, Rob. I don't think you would have found yourself in victory lane at the end of race 2 a few minutes earlier on into the race. Kind of came knocking on your door, and you took the opportunity. Walk us through how your night went from your perspective.
Well, fellas, sometimes it's better be lucky than good, and that's what happened tonight. It all started, I guess, grid. I don't know why Chris Lapras didn't grid. I guess he had something else to do, but found myself on the front row because of that, and I was like, well, let's see where we end up. I tried to manage the race. I knew raw speed, there was no way I was going to catch Tom, so I just kind of ran my race, tried to manage the gap back to Sly for a long time, save tires a little bit, and it ended up working out. I guess Tom just lost focus and, unfortunately hit the wall, but fortunate for me, so I'll definitely take it.
Yeah, and we saw, you had Sly Stafford in behind you. Were you at any point, once Slade put it into the wall, were you at any point concerned that Sly would catch back up to you?
So I tried to manage it. I was actually in the green room talking to Sly, and I was trying to keep it about a second. I know there was times where he was closing in, but I wasn't pushing too hard when I had like a second and a half. I was just trying to manage the tires and manage the gap. I mean, I forget who said it, but I want to win the slowest way possible. So that's basically my theory behind what happened at the last part of the race.
Absolutely, definitely got you in. Rob, thanks for talking to us, and best of luck to you for the next upcoming weeks in the series.
Yep, thanks, guys. You guys do great work.
Thanks a lot. That's Rob Porter, our winner from race number 2. And great talking to all of them, Finian.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great driving tonight as well. Some pretty intense action here at Road America, which you typically expect. I don't know about you, but I really enjoy coming here for sim racing. Again, as I was saying at the top of the broadcast too, in almost every car we come here, it almost always seems to put on a show in some way, shape, or form.
Oh gosh, yeah. Both sim racing and real life racing. As a matter of fact, don't tell anybody, but I've been sitting here with a couple spotted cows through the evening because I love Road America and I love that part of the country all that much, and I love their beer too. Yeah, we always see great racing regardless of the types of cars. Of course, tonight where they were all in, where we have drivers in the different chassis, but all set up competitive. It's a great thing to see that, it's more than where you see that it's more than just the driver itself. Whereas if you had a spec car, you get to see where the setup comes into play, the car choice comes into play. Because yes, some cars are better for different courses, but there's so much involved besides just the driving capabilities. You have basically some great chassis engineers here that get the setup right, and that helps quite a bit as well.
And absolutely. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up coverage here of the Washington D.C. region SCCA at Road America for their GT3 series. Next week they will be heading to. We're trying to find.
They are going to be heading to Suzuka next week.
Yeah, there we go.
Heading, for our DC region guys, gotta head over to Dulles, hop a plane, and head to Japan. And in addition to that, wanted to mention that there are a couple of real-life events going on in the Washington, D.C. region. They do have an HPDE and also time trial session June 27th. So that is, that's this weekend. And that is going to be at Dominion Raceway. I believe, although, given that it's, 9:30 on Friday night, it might be a little bit too late to sign up. But if you go to wdcr-scca.org, you can check. But besides the time trial and track day, very important for those road racers that race in the Mars series or plan on doing any of the upcoming majors races as well. There is going to be a tech day at Dominion tomorrow as well. So if you need your annual inspection for your SCCA road race car, you can trail it over to Dominion and get that taken care of as well.
Yep, thanks for telling us all that, Greg. Looking at the rest of the schedule for SimTV tomorrow night, if you're interested in some stock cars, don't stop listening to me yet. They're not at an oval, they're at a road course. They're going to Mosport tomorrow night, so if you want to see stock cars swinging around a road course, which is probably some of the best thing racing to watch in America.
That should be fun.
Yeah, it really is. They're going to be heading there tomorrow night, and on Sunday we got the SRF Weekend Warriors, which I know I mislabeled this stream as that. By accident, they're heading to Road Atlanta.
They'll never know.
I hope they never know.
That is a great series. They have two different classes of Spec Racer Fords, and tons and tons of drivers. I think over 60 cars some weeks, and always great battles. Some of the fastest iRacing Spec Racer Ford drivers in the world show up for that series.
All right. On that note, I think we're going to wrap this up. My name is Finney Kuna here with Greg Ginsberg at the Road America here with the Washington, D.C. region SCCA, and we're going to be calling it a night.
Thanks again.